The most important thing is show up. Companies hire for character, train for skill. Be responsible for your future and for your career. You have to earn the respect, and you have to be respectable.
Dan Callies, president of Oak Creek, Wisconsin-based Oak Creek Plumbing.
I used to be the guy in the back of the class, and something just clicked inside of me that just said, yeah, I get this. I understand this.
AI is disrupting white-collar work.
I'll give them anything. They can stop into my office at any time, and I'll share anything with them to raise them up.
Someone who's young, and they want to start tomorrow. What are some of the things they can do to give them advice? What's that journey look like? What's the span of time to really get there?
Well,
all right, welcome back to the Lost Art of the Skilled Trades. Super excited to have Dan Callies on the show today, president of the Oak Creek Plumbing Company.
correct.
Welcome to the show.
I'm so excited, man. This is wonderful.
I mean, even just being at the PHCC Connect show here, even just for a day, you could feel the excitement. For the people that don't know, plumbing apprentices are working literally across the way here at the event. And there's a whole competition going on, and just watching these kids who are what, high school kids?
High school kids, right? I mean, a little bit older in high school, and they're in an apprenticeship program, and they're our future craftsmen, right? They're taking this trade and honing their skills for those future generations. I mean, it's amazing that, number one, that they had the fortitude to say, yeah, I'm going to work with my hands. I'm going to work with my mind. I'm going to be out there and create something and build something that you can stand back and say, wow, I was part of that.
Yeah, it's a good feeling. And, you know, it's one thing to have the tech skills, but you also need the soft skills behind that. Being in the field that you're in, and obviously the business that you're in and the people that you employ, what do you look for in those individuals? Because they can have the tech skills, but what about the soft skills?
And our motto at our company is hire for character, train for skill, right? So do they have the right aptitude, attitude? Can you, and I'm not saying they have to be vocally specialized or have a communication, but they have to be relatable and understandable and but the most important thing is show up, right? I mean, that's 70-80%.
You'd be surprised that, you know, you would think that people would show up, but not everybody would show up.
Right.
And, you know, that seems to be an issue, what I see from small businesses, even Fortune 100 or Fortune 500 companies. They have trouble with these, you know, I don't want to say it's the younger generation. It's just a different
It sure
culture,
is.
just different generation.
The way to look at it, I'm not saying it's wrong, because sometimes I'm 60 years old. Of course, I've been through a lot of different things, and my mojo is a little bit different than what their mojo is. And theirs is maybe a little more short term, more personal gratification for the moment. Maybe mine's the long run and the long thing. And again, neither one's right or wrong. And we have to adapt a little bit out there, and they have to adapt a little bit out there. We both have to kind of give and take a little bit. And I understand a work-life balance, and I get all that. But there's a point that there's a responsibility there, and to take actions and be responsible for your future and for your career. And part of that is through understanding and respect the people that you're working with and working for, and the people that you work for have to respect you. But you have to earn the respect, and you have to be respectable.
Yeah.
To earn that.
Well, it's funny. I say to my kids, I'm like, showing up on time versus showing up early, right? On time is late and early is on time. And my son looked at me. He's like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, you'll get it when you're older, but those things, like, stay off your phone. Like, those are like simple things. But again, it's just a generational thing that, you know, but that's just what it is.
Those little nuances mean everything to us, but in the big picture, they don't. And the funny thing about the on time, if you're on time, you're late. That was the Lambo,
Exactly.
And I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Green Bay Packers all the way, right? And the Lambo and his philosophies and how he motivated his team. I mean, he was really a ahead of his time. And we those are legacy things that he's said and done that
100%.
are timeless.
Yeah, I'm a Chiefs fan, but we won't go there.
Well,
that's a different podcast.
He was with Kansas City for a while too, so I forgive him for that.
Yeah. So if you can roll back in your journey, how did you get into the trade? Was it family? Like, what was the backstory behind that?
Yeah, and I'm second generation in the company, and But going through high school, I was like any high school in the mid '80s. I don't know. I was, where am I going to go with this? I'm not sure if the family business, and it was my mom and my dad had the business. They had maybe one or two employees. It was very intimate shop. It was wonderful, paid the bills, but it definitely lived the life of not luxury. And my dad working every single day, and seeing, boy, is that what I wanted or not? I don't know. But I got out of high school. I'm like, college. I wasn't college bound. I wasn't college material. Um, and I said, well, Dad, let me give this a shot. And then for the first year, maybe even 2 years, it still didn't. It wasn't there. That click wasn't there. And I said, hey, Pops, I'm just, this isn't filling my bubble. He's like, all right, well, you're halfway through your apprenticeship. Just stick it out, get your apprenticeship, and then you can do whatever you want. But
was your dad happy that you were in an apprenticeship at that point?
Yeah.
So he was all for it. It wasn't like
there.
stay out of it or anything like that.
And the funny part, I'm one of 7 in our family. And so I have 2 older sisters, 2 older brothers, and 2 younger brothers. And I was the only one that kind of said, hey, Pops, we'll fund your retirement here. And but then I got into it, and all of a sudden something clicked. And so I started reading the code, and I just like, I used to be the guy in the back of the class, kind of disengaged. In 2 semesters, I was the guy in the front of the class, asking the questions, answering the questions. And something just clicked inside of me that just said, yeah, I get this. I understand this. And then I got involved with PHCC, and I saw the business side of it, and it was the maturity level, apparently, right? I mean, it just something clicked, and all of a sudden I became involved in mentoring and meeting and peer grouping and all this stuff that try to position myself to be there. And now at a point in my career, I'm kind of that, how can I help others?
Yeah, which is good to give back because of, your success, and you've seen both sides. Like you said, you've been out in the field and you've seen the business side. So you've seen both sides. It is interesting, and you just gave me a thought about someone who is in the field to make the leap to an entrepreneurial journey. How difficult is that? And is that a different skill set for the people who are listening?
Sure. And number one, you have to have the fire in the belly. It's going to test you beyond what you think you can be tested, right? And I wouldn't so much worry about the skill set, but you have to understand that number one is knowledge. You got to surround yourself with people that can help you, mentor you. Number 2, you have to read. At least this was for me. Now, maybe my day was reading. Now it's YouTubing or podcasts or whatever to obtain this message. But one of the best books I've read out there is by Michael Gerber, The E-Myth, The Entrepreneur Seizure. Right?
You just hit a chord. I love that book.
Right. And just that set the foundation for everything else, and systemize, and how do you communicate, and how do you get these things. And then there's other, best practices, the EOSs and the rocket fuel and those things. I mean, they're all awesome books. Now they have podcasts and all of them.
Well, I'm gonna say that I'm actually a nerd when it comes to that stuff, because at my industrial supply company that I had for 24 years, we implemented EOS. So I know exactly.
Sure. Yeah. And it's great stuff. And if you have EOSs, if you take the E-Myth and the Good to Great book, you kind of swoosh them together. They had a baby called the Entrepreneur Operating System, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of, they take parts, and I'm sure there's more books and more things that inspired that book. But that's the foundation of a lot of business. That's the roadmap. But you still have to operate it. You still have people involved in your business. And right now we have about 30 people on staff, so we're not terribly big, but that's a lot of mouths to feed, and that's a little train that we have to keep chugging, and then we have to keep on putting some fuel into it and keep it going.
Are you a union?
We are signatory. Yeah.
You are?
Yeah.
Okay.
My folks, my dad was signatory. When I purchased the company, we kept it signatory. And when I purchased it, that's what you did, right? And our area was very, very strong signatory. It's kind of changed over a little bit. So sometimes that's given us maybe a little disadvantage, but I turned every disadvantage to an advantage, right? So now, boy, I say, hey, we're a union contractor, and our training is second to none out there. And if I need help or support, I'm just one phone call away from, filling some gaps or some voids. If we have a larger job, we can flex a little bit more and move around a little bit more.
Are you finding challenges with any shortages out there of trying to find technicians or people in the field?
Well, right now, it's kind of funny. In the union, they have over 300 applicants trying to find a home. So in the union side, not so much. Now, they're not skilled, they're not trained yet, right? But they're applicants. Now you gotta weed through, and some is just a name there, right? They had to apply somewhere, and some really wanted this trade. So, but in overall, yes, there is a shortage, especially with the mass exodus of the baby boomers out of our industry right now. Now we're making up some room on technology. We're able to install more with less, right? Because of some of the AI technology, some of the things that you can do on with the Apple iPad that you couldn't have done that in the past.
Well,
And
people was saying, someone was saying it last night at a dinner last night. What AI is going to do to the industry. To diagnose things and to make it a little bit easier. But you still need the hands-on work of the individual to fix it. It's not like Johnny the robot's coming over to get in your crawl space anytime soon.
And we have in our company, we're kind of focusing, we have something called digitize when you can, humanize when you must. So what we're trying to do is take the mundane things that are happening every day that maybe you don't need a human touch to. When someone calls our company, we have a virtual assistant answering the phone, asks for their name, their address, their phone number, and what's the basic, what's happening here? How much of an urgency is this? Now, if the customer answers all the questions, actually our Emily, who is our virtual assistant, can actually even book the call, put the call into our system. And we really don't have a human touching it per se, but they see it, they do those things. Now, we always give the people the option to human out. We call it, and hey, okay, let's get over here. But that's just one example, I think, of kind of going down there of what we did internally at business, out in the field with, like you said, diagnosing things. And I use it constantly, right? You take a picture of a water heater, it'll tell you, you take the serial numbers, it's going to tell you the date of that water heater, is a manufacturer.
It's wild.
Here are some of the issues that it could happen.
Wild. Yeah.
And it's like that, right? And then we can ramp up our staff based on this information. It's a little more readily available. And it's more in a human form that you can read it and understand it. Right.
But I get the fact of trying, the call center or like the customer service person. I can understand that. Like when in my area, when you're calling plumbing companies, they don't always call you back. And especially if they're a small shop, they're out in the field, they'll get back to you. But if you're putting AI in, I can understand because it's 24/7. It doesn't get sleepy, it doesn't call out sick.
It doesn't have a bad day.
It doesn't have a bad day.
Right.
And you can train it however you want to train it. So I completely understand that aspect of, that would be outsourced to AI.
And there's other thing with standard operating procedures and the SOPs and in testing. Or verification. If we have an employment list that, hey, we'll test someone on a certain thing, and then AI helps us develop that test and develop the answers and the curriculum for it. Training programs, it's helped us immensely in that.
Yeah. I think it's like flipped, like blue collar, white collar work. Now that AI is disrupting white collar work, right? It's almost like flipped, like blue collar is becoming white collar, and kids, I always call it Gen Z, are thinking about, well, okay, I can go to a 4-year degree, but I'm going to spend X amount of dollars. And a lot of these kids who are coming out of school, they're not getting the job and not getting the return versus going into a trade or the plumbing trade and getting an apprenticeship and earning and learning and being ahead of the game. I had Valerie on the show just prior to this, and she's an apprentice, and she's doing very well, at a young age.
Well, and I think at schools at one point where they were judged on how many people went to college, right? So the guidance counselors, and that's where they're focused. And because the guidance counselor went to college, the teacher went to college, everyone there went to college, right? So that's their culture, the atmosphere. Now they're understanding Then they said the kids in the basement classes, the industrial classes, well, you're not college material, you're going to go. Well, I think this shift is now, no. If someone has passion, some people are brilliant, but they're not college. They're not, that's not them, right? They love working with their hands. They have a mechanical mindset. They have these things. They're going to be miserable sitting behind a computer. So I think some of the cultures changed that area. It's also the parents. Used to be, you're going to college. Right now, maybe mom or dad did, or maybe they didn't, but the social status was my kid's going to college. And I think that is shift. I'm seeing a shift in that definitely of just saying, hey, boy, being a plumbing is not a bad gig, right? You can do well. And it's not always about financial either, right? If that's the only reason you're going into it, it might not be right? It's just, you're not going to be fulfilled. You're going to struggle.
Yeah, you got to love what you do.
Yeah.
Yes, will the money come? Yeah. But I think kids need to understand that this is not instant gratification, right? It's going to take time. I think a lot of pushback on a lot of the younger generation to become an apprentice. You're not making a lot of money at first, but you don't know anything. Do you know apprentice-wise, like first year, second year? What are the wages roughly?
Yeah, especially in a signatory union shop. I mean, you're in that $20 an hour starting, right? That's 40 grand plus. You get the benefits, the health benefits, and the pension. Signatory. Now that's if it's an open shop, it might be a little bit different. An area might be a little bit different. Right? We're in Milwaukee. Chicago's going to be a little bit higher than that. New
Cost of
York's
living,
cost of living, right?
yeah.
So there's different contracts in area, but still, if you're starting out at 40,000 a year plus benefits, not a bad place to start. And then every year after that, you increase based on time in the trade, and then based on your passing your classes and things. So it's a pretty lucrative, pretty quick.
Yeah, so you scale up very quickly. So if the people that are listening who are thinking about getting into the plumbing trade, maybe they're 19, 20, thinking about the time it takes to become an apprentice, a journeyman, then if you want to scale up from there, maybe own your own business. What's that journey look like? Like what's the span of time to really get there?
Well, I can only speak of my area, my experience on that, but in Wisconsin and in our area, it's a 5-year apprenticeship. So of course you have to pass that, and you have to have so many hours per year that you booked, and there's so many classes that you have to pass this. So once you get that, then you have to wait an additional 3 years before you can take the master's test. And to own your own business in Wisconsin, you have to have a master's a license to do that. Now, master gives you ability to take out permits and once you have your master's, then ownership you have the ability to own the company, because every plumbing company has to have a master plumber as part owner of that company.
Right. So you're looking about what, 8 to 10 years?
8 to 10 years. Right?
8 to 10 years. So if you're around like 30, early 30s,
Sure.
you'd be able to open your own business. Do you think there's too much competition today, or do you think there's enough to go around?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? I mean, the competition is wonderful, but when does it become too much? And most businesses are not going to make. What's the rule of 5? In 5 years, 80% of people that started don't make it, right? And maybe there's different reasons, where there was education, maybe just something didn't go right. Stuff happens. So, but I think there's always opportunity there. If that's what drives you, don't worry about that. Right. And if I want a competitor, I want a good competitor. I want someone who's educated, trained. I'll give them anything. They can stop into my office at any time, and I'll share anything with them to raise them up.
Yeah. 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 And you want that.
Yeah, I want that.
You want that.
Yeah, I think competition is good for all. It's good for the consumer.
Yeah.
It's good for the right competition. The ones that don't know business, that don't know how to charge the right amount, that maybe give the plumbing industry a bad name, or they try to take advantage of situations. That's not right, and that's not good.
Yeah. And it's interesting in small towns, like I live in a small town in Westchester County, New York, and there is a Facebook group, and it's a lot of the moms, they talk about like, I need a plumber. I need an electrician, and they talk. And the thing is, if you wrong one person, that person says, and it can really throw off your entire business. How important is it for you and how do you teach your employees when they're working to
do the right thing?
To do the right thing.
And I think it's a culture within a business. I don't know if we have to teach it. I mean, of course, we always reinforce it, and we look at these things. And the funny part is, not every person out there is our client. Right. And understanding some of that, right, where we're looking for relationships. We're not looking for transactions. And so it's sometimes a little bit different. Some consumers can be unrealistic, and you get dinged. But if you got a 4.8 rating on Google, and you're going to get some dings, don't worry too much about it if your culture is the right culture, right? But if you are taking advantage of people and you are doing things maybe not copacetic, well, then you definitely better be concerned about that.
Right, and that's going to show. I mean, for you, are testimonials like the most important thing?
Right. Correct.
Yeah.
I love what they did, and when we do get feedback, we jump on it right away. Hey, where did we miss? Is it something that we did wrong? Hey, let's fess up. Let's make it right. Maybe the expectations weren't realistic, and then might have to have a little conversation with the client, and maybe we set the unrealistic expectations, right?
Well, that's the thing, and it's sort of like a push and pull here. Yes, you might not make as much on this job, and you have to give up, but you have a repeat customer who tells 10 other people. You don't want that person saying to 10 other people, do not use this company.
Right.
Yeah.
But you have to understand, sometimes no matter what you do, you're going to get those. But that's hopefully the
That's life.
exception and not the rule.
Yes.
I'm not a proponent of saying ignore those, but you have to understand, because if you beat yourself up if that's all you look at.
Yeah. I wanted to pivot over back to sort of business ownership and mindset for you. What have you done from a growth standpoint to really get you to a place? I know you talked about EOS and, some things to run the business, but for you, not everybody has a good day. You have, your ebbs and flows. So for you, how do you keep positive in if there's a downturn or the business is slow, like what do you do?
And drink heavily. No, experience helps navigate a lot of things when you have downturns, right? Hey, we've been through this. We can shore this up. We can do something different. But I think it's exposure to, and of course, communities like PHCC that can help you navigate. And one of my sayings out there is misery loves company, so you go out there and you can give your woes, and you're not the only one here running into these things, right? So it kind of helps you. All right. Now I have that foundation. I'm not the idiot that I think I am, right? And then you can say, well, okay, how do we strategize through this? What do you cut, or what do you have to market more, market differently? What look at another service, provide another entity to our clients that they can start. Hey, pipelining, sure, So how do you expand those areas and just always but you got to keep your pulse on it. You can't let it sneak up on you, because it can very, very quickly, and it has on me. Back in the early 2000s, the .com thing, I didn't see, it's like, oh man. I mean, a
lot of people, right? A lot of people didn't see that.
Yeah.
I just think, I was an entrepreneur. Like, I think it's a crazy freaking journey.
Yes.
It's crazy. We are crazy people.
We are.
Well, right. To go off on your own, to have your own business, to work longer hours and might not make as much right away. It's crazy. But I think getting in a group of some sort, like PHCC has helped you. For me, it's been Vistage is a
sure,
group
Vistage, the tech and Vistage. Yeah, I was a member many, many years.
I mean, that was like life-changing to be in a room with 15 other, business owners, to be like, wait, you have that problem? And there's a lot of stuff you don't know, and the stuff you don't know really hurts you. So like always picked up nuggets every meeting.
There's board of advisors, right? And just get out there and be humble. Take this information that people are willing to share with you and help you. But you got to surround yourself with the right people and understand, okay, they're there for you, right? They're the right people.
Yeah, 100%. Also your own employees, get the right people on the bus, right? Set the culture, right? It all comes from the top.
Top down.
Top down. For people who, and before you leave the show, for people who want to get into the plumbing trade, or someone who's young and they want to start tomorrow, what are some of the things they can do to give them advice?
Yeah, and that's and part of it is just, getting out there and maybe start getting your name out there to local firms out there. Hey, and then maybe be the shop boy, or shop girl for after high school hours. Just putting away fittings, cleaning shop, helping them get things. So your name's there. They can see your attitude. They can see who you are based on how you show up when you're supposed to show up. And that will set the stage naturally to say, hey, I'm looking for my apprenticeship. Would you sponsor me? Right? I mean, holy cow, that would be pretty big. Other than, I mean, if you can show, winners always win. And I don't know, and when I say achievers always achieve. Look, I always look at people's past history will kind of help predict their future. So if they worked at McDonald's and they were the crew chief at McDonald's, that says a lot to me, right? If they worked at, the Domino's Pizza and they were the lead person on that shift or whatever, I mean, we look for a lot of those qualities of how you didn't coast, you really kind of stepped up. Now, the funny part is, would I hire myself when I was at that age? Maybe not, but there was probably something in there that I didn't realize that was there. And it kind of came out.
Yeah, and that's good advice. And that takes time to develop that. Right.
And perseverance. Don't give up. Be politeful perseverance, and understand that sometimes it happens right away. Sometimes it takes a while. But if this is what your passion is, it will land.
Oh, I believe it 100%. And I feel the passion with you. Like, you're still excited about the business, and you're excited about being here at PHCC and making an impact. And Dan, if people want to find out more about you, anything social or website that people can go to?
That's funny. We had a conversation. I'm technology. I love AI. I love those things. The social stuff, I don't even know if I could even post on Facebook, right? Pay people to do that. And I'm kind of jokingly saying it, but I'm kind of private in that area. And maybe but I think I set my business up to be the entity. I didn't set the business up for me to be the entity, right? I mean, we're Oak Creek Plumbing. It isn't the Oak Creek Plumbing by Dan Callies, right? But that was my choice. I'm more behind the scenes kind of guy. I will get out in front and I will, I'll be the first one with the flag out front, right? But to put myself out there. But with that being said, part of PHCC right now, I'm the national president. My term ends at this connection. I'm with Oak Creek Plumbing. I mean, you look at our website, look at our things that we have set up, because we have some good things. I think some good things that people could duplicate of what we're doing, and moving on. I will take a phone call at any time. I will take an email or a text message at any time. And I'm a proponent of the industry to help it in any way, shape, or form that I can.
Yeah. I love the passion, and it's all about making the impact and getting that next generation working with their hands. Dan, it's been a blast having you on the show. Thank you very much.
You rock, man. Thank you again for what you do to this industry and help it raise it all. And just you're promoting it, and just rock on, man. Rock it.
Or you change one person's life.
Yes.
That's just one person.
Fair enough.
All right, Dan. Thanks so much.
Be good.